You are listening to Gameday Tarps podcast with Riley, Dakota, and Dallas.
Welcome back to Gameday Tarps podcast episode 26. We have a little bit of a change up today. It's just the two of us for the first time. Dally, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. The Pittsburgh Penguins, I think, had the biggest splash on this Thursday afternoon. As it stands now, we are just about, under 24 hours to go in the 2024 NHL trade deadline. And boy, Riley, I gotta say, man, like there has been quite a lot of surprising trades going on this year with a lot of guys that were not even on TSN or Sportsnet or any of the hockey analytics even trade list. So I don't know. It's a weird year, but I think for all the right reasons, a lot of teams are happy with what they're doing. So yeah, we'll definitely have to get into it and break down most of these trades and what we think is a good deal, what is not a good deal, and also I would like to make some predictions for tomorrow's final trade day.
Sounds good, yeah. And we're super excited because tomorrow we're kind of doing our first ever non-podcast episode, non-short video. We're doing a full trade deadline day breakdown. That's why we're doing this a day early, because we're just going to get rid of the minor news. We're not even really going to cover the trades, but yes, we can absolutely make some predictions on what we think tomorrow is going to happen. But today is just about the news, really, just about what's gone on in the week and outside of the trade deadline, because that's such a big topic. But let's start off with some non-hockey, some feel-good stories. We had Jason Kelce retire from the National Football League after 13 seasons with the Philadelphia Eagles. Just a tremendous career, tremendous guy, and we'd be lucky if we can even get this podcast to half of what those guys get on their podcast. So just congrats to Jason Kelce.
Oh, he's one of the best to do it, and honestly, congrats to him on a great career. And he had a legendary retirement speech, so it was pretty cool to watch. So
it was awesome. Yeah, go watch it if you haven't. It's legendary. We can't repeat some of the stuff here. He finally realized that the NFL couldn't suspend him, so he just said whatever he wanted. It was awesome. College basketball, though. This is college basketball as a whole, but specifically for women's college basketball, Caitlin Clark becomes the all-time NCAA basketball leader in points scored by anyone, male or female. Clark entered the game in Iowa City needing 18 points to pass Maravich's total of 3,667 points, but he did it in just 83 games over 3 seasons at Louisiana State University from 67 to 1970. She finished with 35 in the game to run her total to 3,685 in 130 games. So just got to throw respect where respect is due. The all-time leader in college basketball scoring, period, in America. What an incredible feat. This Caitlin Clark girl has been talked about for a couple of years, but she really is something special.
LSU, I mean, they are a great school, and there's a lot of talent that comes out of LSU. I mean, even Skeens last year went first overall to the Pittsburgh Pirates in the MLB. Like, It's just something about the South. Like, I know for like sports, like everybody loves watching college football, basketball, baseball, whatever. Like, it's just something about the South that produces some deep talent, no matter what sport you're in, really. So. Yeah, it's wild, the stats that come out of some of these universities and colleges, like, wow.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible, man. On March 3rd, 1875, this is a historic fact. It was the first organized ice hockey game that took place in Montreal, and obviously the rest is history for the world of hockey. So we got to throw that out there. That March 3rd was that historic day in hockey history. So gotta love that, because we wouldn't be where we are today without this beautiful game. Let's talk about some UFC. No, just kidding. Let's talk about Rempe versus Reeves. Basically, a main card event in the UFC is what we got on the ice when Reeves versus Rempe. Rempe put it off for most of the game. He was looking at the coach, wondering, can I go? Can I go? He finally got the okay, dropped the gloves. What a tilt. And you know what? Haven't heard much of Rempe fighting since. I think he finally realized that was the last big one. Now he can take a bit of a break. So it was a tilt, though.
Man, the rookies are shining in NYR this year, with the likes of Will Cooley getting a shot, Brennan Ottman, and now Matt Rempe having probably the biggest impact and a cult following, if you will, almost in the world of hockey. Like, he's taken it all by storm, and he is definitely a dying breed of what a lot of people refer to as an enforcer. So, like we discussed last time, it's fine to see, and it's also fun to see fighting reinvigorated in the sport of hockey again. Like, keep fighting in hockey, all right? And he is definitely a young kid that is proving, he can put on a good show.
Absolutely. And this fight basically happened because he hit Lyubushkin and injured him in his first game as a Toronto Maple Leaf. So Reeves had to respond.
Man, he was just showing it to Brad Tree Living, man. He's like, here, you want an ex-Leaf again with a dumb trade? Here, I'll just, put him out on his first game, bench his ass.
Absolutely, man. He ran. And whether you think it was charging or not, we're not here to discuss that. I don't really know if it was, if it wasn't. It is what it is. But either way, it was a big hit. It injured their newly acquired player, and Reeves stepped up. Reeves took it upon himself. He knew that the fight was going to happen anyways, but he's like, all right, now you hit my guy. This is happening.
Here's another thing I'd like to get into later on is that, like, Toronto's known for these dumb little trades too, and like even today they got the rights of that one kid for like a late round pick too, and it's like you guys are all about win now, but when yes, I get it, it's fine, you're smart about setting up for the future and a potential player, but still, like, when you acquire the rights for a player who you may or may not ever see ice time for your club, it's like you guys should be making splashes out there, like move some cap around, trade a guy away that's making way too much, in the city of Toronto, which he honestly shouldn't be, but get a guy who's, wanting to come there and win, because we all know Toronto, the way they make moves, it never works out, never ever pans out in their favor. So when is it going to give? And I got a bone to pick with Toronto with the trades they are making this year. Questionable.
Mm-hmm. Very. Let's jump to another Canadian team, East Coast to West Coast. Let's talk about Elias Pettersson's contract deal. And before we say anything, we do want to say we were right.
100% we were right.
High. We knew he was going to get more than Nylander. Everyone was saying he wasn't worth it. And we agreed that, yes, he isn't worth that. But it's not necessarily about that. It's about what the market dictates. And this is what the market dictated. He ends up making $100,000 more than William Nylander on his contract. So let's go over this right now. We have his full breakdown. He has a full no-move clause. His salary by year is $2.5 million next year, $4.5 million the year after, $11 million after that in 2026-27. 27-28 is $9.45 million. 28-29 is $7.25 million. 29-30 is $3.7 million. 30-31 is $3.7 million, and 31-32 is $3.7 million. And then he has signing bonuses each year attached to that. He has a $12 million the first year, $10 million the second year. He has $0 signing bonus the year he makes $11 million in 2026-27. 27-28 is $5 million, and it's just $5 million all the way to the end of the contract from there. So he gets his big bonus. What was it, 11.6 mil per year?
In bonuses,
AAV? Yeah. So, you know what? This is the way the NHL is going. People can complain all they want about guys making money. For goodness sakes, Austin Matthews just got paid $14 million, and is Elias Pettersson such a bad player that he's worth $6 million less than Austin Matthews? No, he's not. He's about $3 million less than Austin Matthews, and that's pretty much where he landed. So,
yeah, well, I mean, Austin Matthews is worth every penny to the dollar of that deal, right? I mean, he's already have 54 goals this season, all right? He's on pace for another Rocket Richard trophy, and like we discussed, like when all's said and done, Austin Matthews may or may not have a better goal per game record and beat Ovi's record, who he's also trying to beat Wayne Gretzky's record when it's all said and done.
Yeah.
So it's
I
like Elias Pettersson will never get to that point in his career.
no.
Probably a lot of guys won't. However, when people were commenting West Coast, East Coast bias, no. You have a guy in Elias Pettersson who has what, one 100-point season? He had a season where he only had 66 points in 82 games played. Like, okay, he's a great player. He's phenomenal, okay? He's Swedish. He's a great hockey player. A lot of great hockey players come out of Sweden. But to worship the ground he walks on and claim that, he should be the highest paid player out there, it's a little bit of a biased statement because the results produce themselves when you're on the ice, right? William Nylander got his contract because he deserved it, and he was producing out there at a high, high rate.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Like, none of us are
I,
Toronto fans, okay? We are just guys breaking down the fact that William Nylander got the bag because he deserved it.
yeah, absolutely. And it's the way that hockey's going. A few years ago, look at the contracts before this year with Stamkos and Tavares. Not Tavares' $11 million one, but his one before that. And Stamkos, they were like $7-8 million. What's Crosby on an $8 million contract?
Yeah, he's like 8-7.
And he was like the highest paid player when he got that contract, was he not? Outside of some of the stupid deals like the Kovalchuks and stuff like that.
Oh,
When
back in the day, he was one of the
yeah,
highest, but he's kept it that way throughout his career because he's superstitious like that. He wants it to be kept 8-7 because
mhm,
obviously his jersey number and the day he was born and then the month he was born and the
yeah.
year he was born all has to do with 8-7. So that's why he's kind of kept it that number.
And when he came in the league, I bet you his entry level contract was 875 or
Yeah,
870.
$875,000. I'll
Yeah,
guarantee it.
like it just lined up like that for him. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see how the contracts keep unfolding. I mean, when will be the time that it breaks 20 million? We don't know. It's going to happen. Someone's going to get $20 million contract. Probably Bedard. I would assume Bedard may be the first to break it. Maybe Gavin McKenna, if Gavin McKenna pans out, because he's draft, the 2026 draft, and then all of a sudden you look like let's call it 5 years into his future. Okay, that cap should be high enough that someone can make 20 mil, because right now 20 mil is 1/4 of a team salary cap. So there's no way anyone's getting paid 20 mil right now, but
Well,
we'll see.
like I said, don't get me wrong, Pettersson's a great player. Okay, Vancouver Canucks fan will argue day in and day out that he's one of the best players in the world. Okay, we get that, but to the extent like you can tell there was some disgruntled mannerisms throughout the offseason and the beginning of the year. Like we get he wants to win. Okay, who doesn't? But with the success of the Vancouver Canucks this year, which is awesome to see, I
Mm-hmm.
think that he understands now the bigger picture, what Jim Rutherford and Alvin want to see, and it's coming to fruition now. We'll see come playoffs and after tomorrow's trade deadline if they feel confident enough in this core to move forward or if they might add a few pieces. But again, coming down to the productivity, I'm very surprised to see that Pettersson got what he got. But again, who's to say within the next 8 years what he could do? He could have a 120-point season next year.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I guess you can't judge it before, it's all said and done.
True.
Like take Trevor Zegras, for example, man. Okay, he got what he got, and look at him. Like there are goalies who have had more points, well, assists, the same category of points compared to him, right? And
I
I feel
know.
like Anaheim's gonna be moving on from him as well too.
Yeah, they'll have to. There's no choice. That's just a broken relationship. Um, well, let's talk about another guy who's honestly got a broken relationship with his team and kind of on a low. Per Chris Johnston on Twitter, Evgeny Kuznetsov is cleared to resume practicing with the Capitals after entering the NHL and NHLPA player assistance program. But as soon as he was sent back to Washington, the Capitals immediately placed him on waivers and sent him to Hershey. Now, there was word that he requested this, and there has been since lots of photos and a couple videos of him in Hershey, and he looks happy, he's smiling, he's having a good time. So maybe he just took that mature step for the first time maybe in his entire career, and he said, okay, I need a reboot. I've been getting way out of control. My life has been spiraling. Get me out of Washington, right? Like let's just stay away and let's reset here.
See, and a lot of guys of his caliber and skill would go to management with like, I'm better than this, you know? Why am I being sent down to the farm? You know,
Mm-hmm.
like they'll demand a request. They have this giant ego, like I'm better than this. Why am I getting sent down to the farm? But you know what? Even for rooting for the Pens, like and Capitals are our biggest rival. Like you know what? That's a mature move, okay? The fact that he's happy playing for the Hershey Bears in the AHL, you know, and he wanted to make that step to kind of better himself, like that's a lot of respect, man. I'll give him props for that, you know, because Evgeny Kuznetsov is a great player. He's very talented, and the fact that he was mature enough to just say, hey, you know what? I need to step back and just rejuvenate myself. And you know what? And if I have to do that at the lower level, so be it. I feel like he
Exactly.
just wants to play hockey, man. He just wants to play to
Mm-hmm.
his fullest potential. And if it's going to make him happy, all the gas to you, man. Just pedal to the metal.
For sure. And it's actually funny now. This can be taken with a grain of salt because I think it's a little incorrect, but it says now that he's cleared waivers, he's the highest salaried player ever on a roster in the AHL, which isn't entirely true because of like Carey Price being on a conditioning stint in Laval and stuff. But I will rephrase it like this: he's the highest roster player that's been actually sent to the minors, not on a conditioning stint, because
Yeah,
there's
because
been
this
lots
he's
of
not coming
conditioning
back
stints.
from injury or nothing, right? So
Exactly.
he's not going to be making his way to the NHL immediately trying to rehab.
Mm-hmm.
No, this is him wanting to just play the game of hockey and see where it goes from here.
Exactly. So neat that he's the highest ever player to make money in that league. Um, Coming up though, we have a rookie goaltender out of nowhere. I don't know how this guy's not on more teams' radars. We have Lucas Dostal with the most saves in a win by a rookie goaltender. He had 52 on March 1st, which is crazy. That puts him fifth overall. Um, on that list, we have Mike Palmateer, Alexander Georgiev, Wayne Thomas, and Glenn Hall all ahead of him, all in the 50s, respectively. So good to see him jump on that list in the top five and, start to make a name for himself. And this is another reason that we continually talk about John Gibson being moved.
And
Now
you
they're
know what?
holding him
That's
back.
exactly where I was about to go when you were finished there about that, talking about Lucas Dostal. That right there, he is the man of the future of the Anaheim Ducks as a
Yep.
netminder, okay? The Ducks are honestly doing John Gibson a disservice by keeping him as long as they have. And
And themselves.
I'm dead surprised that they still haven't moved him,
I know.
you
But
know?
and themselves. They're only hurting themselves by not getting his maximum value. Like, doesn't make sense.
It doesn't because he's been wanting out for how many years now? How many years
Six?
now?
Six?
Yep. Well, exactly.
Maybe? Like, oh my goodness.
Like, get that man out of there.
Exactly. He needs to. And you know what? Talk about, a guy who was in California as a netminder and moved on to bigger and better things. Mika Kiprusoff. His jersey was retired with the Calgary Flames this week. So big congrats to him. He's first in games played, first in wins, first in goals against average, second in save percentage, and first in shutouts in Calgary Flames franchise history. No one better to do it in Calgary, honestly, in that. I know Mike Vernon's right there, but that was a different era. In the current era, Mika Kiprusoff was the Flames' best goaltender. So all the respect to him. We'll throw some pictures in of that night of the retirements, and again, nothing but respect for Mika Kiprusoff and what he did for the Calgary Flames.
Yeah, he was actually the only goaltender from '03 to 2013 to have played the most games in 975 games
Mm-hmm.
played. He was an iron horse for the Calgary Flames, and he was putting on a clinic for every other goalie in the league, saying, "You know what? What's an off day, boys? I can do
Yeah,
this all day. Literally, I can do
and
this every day of the week, every
and no one will
every
beat
game
that
scheduled."
record again. No one will beat that record again because basically Andre Vasilevsky is the last goalie standing that plays almost every game. Really, there's no one else in the league that's playing 70 games a year. Maybe Connor Hellebuck and maybe UC Saros. Those are the only other two that come to mind. Everyone else is doing split shift goaltending, and it's the proper way to go. Like saving these guys' bodies, making their careers longer. Even though I don't even know if that's true, because you look at Marc-Andre Fleury, he's played so long, and you look at Brodeur, played so long, and all these goalies have played so long, and yet here we are talking about less games will get longer careers, but it almost seems like the goalies nowadays don't last as long. But either way, that's just a different discussion. I just thought, who knows? Who knows what the science is behind that? But here's another one. Another goal. We have lots of goalies this week. Lots of goalie talk. Because Jonathan Quick signed an extension with the New York Rangers for 1 year at $1.275 million with a 20-team no-trade clause. So honestly, the best backup, maybe even the only backup who's actually stolen the starting gig from one of the best goalies in the league. Like, he's had an incredible year.
I don't know what it is with the New York Rangers. Like, it started with Georgiev after Henrik Lundqvist left. They thought he'd be the next starter for the next, X amount of years. And then this guy named Igor Shesterkin comes into play. And then he stole the show when Alexander Georgiev left for the Mile High City. Now we got a rental guy in Jonathan Quick, who is not actually even a rental guy anymore. He just locked down another 1-year deal. And he started the season off as a backup 8-0-1. And now he is potentially now taking the full-on starter job from Igor Shesterkin. And how's that going to make him feel, right? Is he going to want out eventually? But, I mean, they're a deep team. I mean, I can't see him wanting to leave, but, for an elite caliber goalie such as that, he's going to be fighting for that number one job. No question.
Yeah. And the Rangers should be happy with that, because now they can go in the playoffs knowing that if something's wrong with either of them, they have the other option. Right?
Hey, man, like I said, man, I was happy when I picked up the whole Rangers team in the fantasy league we're in, because you know what? Having Quick and Shesterkin, they are lights out.
That's such a deadly duo, man. It was the best goaltender signing of all the free agency, bar none, no question about it. Dominant play.
I have this recurring thought, Riley. 10 years ago, okay? Who was in the Cup playoffs 10 years ago?
That would have been 2020, so 2014. That would have been, the Kings.
And?
Yeah. Oof.
And was it not the Rangers?
It was the Rangers. It was the Kings beat the Rangers.
So who would have thought 10 years into the future we would see the likes of reigning Stanley Cup champion Jonathan Quick from the LA Kings now playing for the opposition in the New York Rangers? No one in their wildest dreams would have said, nah, dude, you're high as hell. There ain't no way.
And it could be the year that they win the Cup.
Oh, exactly, right?
They're a really good team.
It's just weird things like that you just never would have expected, but here we are today, and it's reality.
It's the NHL for you, man. Never know what's going to happen.
Think of Henrik Lundqvist inking a deal with the Washington Capitals. Even that was weird. A couple years back.
Didn't work out at all like Quicks did, but I mean, it was a good shot for him.
Oh yeah.
All right, so let's jump to some WHL talk here. We have Ty Hurley of the Kelowna Rockets in the WHL. He's been honored with the Life-Saving Society of BC and Yukon after he pulled a man who was unresponsive from a hot tub in a Strathmore, Alberta hotel in December. 19-year-old Hurley performed CPR on the man until he began breathing again. This is Hurley's quote: "I felt like I had to be the one in that situation. It looked hopeless. Nothing was progressing. I felt he was stranded. I felt I had to be the one to step up." So absolutely, just not even congrats, but just thanks to this kid for being that type of person who knows when to step up and to take a chance to save someone's life and to do it. There's a whole lot of people out there that when it push comes to shove and you have to actually give someone CPR, are you actually capable of doing it or not? And the fact that he stepped up and did it, fantastic job. He deserves this award. And, and just maybe, hopefully there's a lot of people who deserved it as well. But to see this happen, and especially because, WHL, CHL, they needed a good story here. and they finally got one in the positive side on their end because it's been so negative lately.
For sure.
All right, so in 2023-24 NHL campaign, it's just the third in NHL history to feature the top 6 teams in the standings separated by just 3 points or fewer after a minimum of 60 games played for each team. The other times this happened in the league were 2014-15 and 2003-2004. Is that not weird that it's happened every 10 years?
It has. That
Both,
is a
both
weird recurring
304,
stat.
14-15, 23-24. So all of them are 10 years on the 4. So 04, 14, and 24. Just weird stat that has happened. But it's almost like if it was 03, 04, 13, 14, 23, 24, that would be even crazier. But we just missed it in the middle there with 14, 15. But I mean, I guess it makes sense. Like the league really starts to rotate about every 10 years, right? Things really start to switch up and teams start to find their footing. So yeah, I can see how every 10 years it kind of happens where there's this really good competitive core at the top. We were talking about poor Kent Johnson the other day, goalless in 17 games or whatever, and then they announced that he will miss the rest of the season with the torn labrum. So hopefully he can come back next year and ditch this year. Leave it behind. It was a horrible experience for him. Just move on to next year, and hopefully things will turn out for him.
Well, at least when he comes back, he doesn't have to deal with Kekalainen.
Exactly. And hopefully not Vincent Pascal either, or Pascal Vincent, whatever it is. I never know that guy's name. But yeah, I don't.
Or whoever's running that, dumpster fire in Columbus these days.
Yep. Time to turn it around next year. I think they'll be fun next year, but this year, yeah, horrible. The Predators and Tommy Novak agreed to a 3-year contract extension. So Tommy Novak, who was on the trade block, is no longer. It's a $10.5 million total contract with $3.5 million annual average. This is according to Elliot Friedman. We also have, how many other contracts do we have here? We have quite a few. We have Zach Bogosian signing a 2-year, $1.25 million extension with the Minnesota Wild. We have the Capitals extending Rasmus Sandin, 5 years, $4.6 million per year. We have the Flyers extending Nick Seeler, 4 years, $2.7 million AAV. The Flames signing Daniil Miromanov to a 2-year, 2.5 contract extension. The Panthers signing Gustav Forsling to an 8-year, $5.75 million contract extension. And Oscar Sudqvist signing a 2-year, $1.5 million contract. So a lot of moving parts, or not moving parts, but a lot of parts getting taken off the trade deadline market. So any thoughts for you on those major extensions, Dally?
I don't have too many thoughts on those. For me personally, a lot of them are kind of minor details. So, I mean, not a whole lot of notable guys on that list. So, yeah, I don't really have too much to say on those ones.
Yeah, more so just Sandin and
Rasmus Sandin was pretty good in Toronto, and Washington saw that and they wanted him. So he has been pretty good for Washington. He's keeping up his consistency. So, yeah, congrats on that contract renewal there, brother.
And Gustav Forsling too. 8 years at 5.75. What a steal of a deal for the Florida Panthers. Like, that's just a killer contract for, honestly, one of the best second pair defensemen in the NHL.
Dude, I was gassing up this morning at the Petrocan, and I was on my phone looking at that, and I'm like, there ain't no way, man. Gustav Forsling got that big of a bag. Like, I was shocked. That was a surprising one.
I mean, the money is low to me.
No, the term.
Yeah, but
I'm talking.
I think that's why. He took less money for more term. That's my guess. And plus, signing in Florida with the no state tax, like, that helps too, not having to take so much. But, yeah, I mean, those two are definitely biggest. And then Nick Seeler. I mean, Seeler had a really cool story where he was like in the minors just a couple years ago. He got cut. he almost retired from hockey at like whatever age he was. And then 2 years ago, he signed with the Flyers on $875K a year. And now here he is signing for $10 million over 4 years. So, for anyone who thinks if you're going through this, hockey journey of yours and you think it's out of reach, look up these stories that guys who had to travel a long way, Jordy Ban and stuff like that, they all had to come a long way to get here. Jason Garrison's a great example too of a guy who had to take the long route. So yeah, just look at those guys who are taking the long route and see that they can make it too, and try and build some inspiration off that. On the waiver wire, though, we had quite a few waiver pickups. We had Matthew Phillips brought back to the Capitals from Pittsburgh. We had Joel Hanley off waivers from Dallas to Calgary, and Jarrett Anderson-Dolan from Los Angeles to Nashville. So, yeah, there's some more players. I mean, Calgary and Dallas have been doing a ton of moves back and forth. We'll cover that tomorrow on our trade deadline episode, because they made yet another trade just a little bit ago tonight, just a minor deal. But, yeah, they've been really, really going back and forth.
What do you think, Riley? What do you think is going to go down tomorrow? Do you think a lot of teams are going to start getting nervous and antsy and just start making desperation trades, or do you think a lot of them will be calculated and more conservative buyers, do you think? Are you expecting a really unsurprising trade tomorrow? Tell me.
No, I'm not. I just think that all the depth pieces are going to go crazy.
I know we talked about this on our social media pages, but for me personally as an Avs fan too, seeing Bowen Byram go, and by the way, he did score tonight in his Sabres debut. Yeah. So honestly, congrats to the Vancouver Giants alumnus and Vancouver native Bowen Byram, BC native Bowen Byram. I loved him as a defenseman in Colorado. He is honestly a great guy. Couldn't be more happy for him moving forward. I guess he just wasn't part of the Colorado future plans that Chris McFarland has in mind. But you know what? That for me was definitely a big surprising trade. Definitely did not expect it. It was pretty blindsided. But yeah, that's just my thoughts. That was the one trade that I thought was holy out of the shit. Blue. Yep.
Yeah, just came out of left field for sure. But no, I mean, trade deadline day is either one of two things. Either nothing happens and it all explodes on trade deadline day, or everything happens before it, and then you see teams, basically what you said, scrambling to get the scraps of what's left to make it up. Who's still available that's an impact player that someone can add? Who is the perfect fit at the right price, right? So that is the now balance of all these GMs. But some of these teams have been doing a fantastic job. We'll go over it. I mean, Vegas is winning this deadline. Colorado's winning this deadline. I guess we can argue Carolina's now winning this deadline. There are some teams that just took this deadline and ran with it. And then there's teams that are losing it. In our opinion, Calgary's losing this deadline. Tampa's honestly losing this deadline. They were in on Hannafin. They were in on Edmondson. Both those guys went elsewhere. So, realistically, there are lots of teams that lost and lots of teams that won, and some that are losing by not doing anything, like the San Jose Sharks, who really haven't done much of anything. So, again, we'll go over this more tomorrow in our full trade deadline breakdown. But, yeah, I think it's going to be small stuff. I think there's going to be lots. I predict 25-plus trades tomorrow of small proportions. Nothing major, because all the big ones are done. Usually the big ones slow everything down. And then as soon as it happens, and those trades happen an hour before the deadline ends, and then everyone just rushes in once they know the value. The value of the market has been set, so now people can just fire away tomorrow.
It ends at 12 p.m. Eastern time, I believe.
12 Pacific, 3 Eastern.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
One thing I did want to mention, though, is that there is one trade at the NHL trade deadline that I vividly remember that just absolutely backfired in their face, was when the Jerome Iginla sweepstakes were going on, and the Pittsburgh Penguins acquired him, and head coach Danny Balsma played him on his off wing in the 13 games he was with Pittsburgh, and holy was it a shit show. They thought they were
Yeah.
getting a stud, which honestly, by the grace of God, Jerome McGinley, absolute beauty. Love the
Hmm.
guy. Great, one of the greatest hockey players ever, in my opinion. However, he was not utilized properly in Pittsburgh, so that kind of just ruined his chances at a cup, I think.
Yep.
But it was really sad to see. And such a great, talented player in Jerome McGinley going over to Pittsburgh. Everybody thought it was a sure done deal that they were going to have one of the best chances that year in a cup. But
Yep.
again, like I said, the head coach Danny Balsma, they did not utilize him properly. Played him on his off wing, and just couldn't get anything done. So that was one of the worst trade deadline acquisitions I think I've ever seen. It could have been a
Yep.
lot better. Could have went a whole different way, but definitely did not expect to go the way they thought it would.
Well, keeping it on the coaching aspect, let's talk about the Devils firing Lindy
See ya,
Ruff
Lindy.
and putting Travis Green in as the interim head coach. Now, I struggle with this one because Lindy Ruff was wanted fired by all the fans last year. Then all of a sudden he took them, beat the Rangers, and he was everyone's hero. And then this year, it's like Hughes has missed half the season. Heischer's missed half the season. Hamilton's missed half the season. They traded Severson away. They traded so many parts away. They added guys like Andre Palat in the last year or so. Like, yes, the team was underperforming, and maybe Lindy Ruff wasn't getting the most out of them. But by goodness, I don't know if you can blame this season solely on Lindy Ruff. Like, there's nothing Lindy Ruff could have done. There's nothing the management could have done. There's nothing the ownership could have done. They could have prevented their guys from getting injured the way they did, prevented, the team from sliding. Like, what do you do when you have no Hughes and Heischer and you're the New Jersey Devils and no Dougie Hamilton at the same time? Like, those are their three best players.
I also thought it was kind of a disrespectful move when the ramping up of talks in trading from Jacob Markstrom from the Calgary Flames, and the fact that they just were like, no, we're just gonna back out now. Like, you guys allegedly had a deal in place, and then you're like, no, no, not good enough. We want
Well,
a lower asking price, as you were
it
just fine with it minutes ago.
It did also come out though too that yes, so the Devils did start to lower their offer, but that when it was a higher offer, the Flames ownership said no to Craig Conroy.
Oh, they said don't pull the trigger.
Yeah, they said don't pull the trigger. So now, like I would imagine he's going tomorrow. That's my guess. Even though he played tonight, my guess is that Markstrom's going tomorrow. You just can't keep him now. There's no unless ownership's like, no, we're keeping him. You have to trade him in the offseason. He's pissed. He doesn't want to be there. I'm still like our last episode 25, when we were like, shut up NHL on TNT, like, or whoever it was, NHL Network, whoever we were saying, like they were talking smack about the Flames
Yeah,
organization.
NHL Network.
Yeah. And like we still stand by that. But like Markstrom's pissed. You pissed him off. And I don't think that they're a horrible organization for it, but I still think you have to trade the guy because now you burn the bridge.
And you know what?
So,
They have a stud in the minors in
Wolf.
Dustin Wolf for the Calgary Wranglers. So you know what? If Markstrom's his spot is vacant, you just have Danny Villadar starting, and if Dustin Wolf can compete for that starting role, then you could even just have them flip flopping each other. You know, it's the same thing I say about the Penguins all the time. Don't let these guys rot too long in the minors. Their potential is going to go way down. Their confidence is going to go way down, thinking that the big show, the NHL squads be like, they're giving up on me. That's not always the case. However, like, you can go on a lot of hot streaks, cold streaks, but when you got a player that's as hot in the minor leagues right now as Dustin Wolf, you take advantage of it, get his confidence level up to the ceiling, have him in the show, play him, and then he can build his confidence with the big boys in the
For
NHL.
sure.
So you know what? That's the perfect scenario. You're gonna have your franchise goaltender in Dustin Wolf, utilize him now. Don't pull a Pittsburgh and just let them rot in the minors for years and years, and then just trade them off for like a 6-round pick or whatever down the road. But I think that's ultimately Calgary's best interest in mind is that get rid of Markstrom tomorrow at the deadline and just go with Wolf and Vladar.
Yeah,
And
they're
I'm not
not
even a
winning.
Calgary fan, and that's what I think.
They're not winning with their defense core. They're not making it into the playoffs now. They can say like Blake Coleman's really been like this team's going to step up. They're going to push hard, and they will. They're gonna play with pride, and they're going to give everything they got. But at the same time, you got to look at the roster,
Who won
and
tonight,
that
by the way?
roster. Actually, Calgary did. They won 6-3, and it was just a terrible game for Tampa. Yeah, no. So John Cooper, probably the number one guy, right? They lose. He says, okay, this happened, like this guy. No, tonight he literally was just like, this was embarrassing. We got embarrassed. This was a joke. Our guys had a week off, basically. He said, we gave them time off. We did light practices. We set them up with everything they needed to come here with energy and refocus for the game. And they embarrassed me, they embarrassed the organization, and they embarrassed themselves in front of the fans. So John Cooper, who does not typically say stuff like that, went off in the media about his team, and rightfully so. Like it was 2-1 at the end of the second, and it was halfway through the second, and it was 6-2, I believe.
That is
No,
brutal.
no, because they 5-2 because they scored the sixth goal on an empty netter in the third. And
And
Cooper again pulled Vazzy with 8 minutes left. He's like, you guys are just leaving him hung out to dry. And you know what? There's one guy. You know how teams always have someone who loves to kill it against them? Igor Sharangovich, man. They said it at the beginning of the game. They're like, Sharangovich really likes to play against the Lightning. What do you get? Like 4 points tonight, 2 goals, like just lit it up. So yeah, I don't know. The Lightning are a team that they're only 4 points ahead of the Islanders.
and I know we're gonna
In
get
the wild
into it,
spot.
but I remember like the trade talks of maybe the Lightning could have been a front runner for Noah Hannafin out of Calgary.
Yep.
Obviously, that's not the case. We'll get into that with the likes of having Mikhail Sergachev having season-ending injury or surgery for his
Yep.
injury. But now that Noah Hannafin, a top defender off the market, heading to the Vegas Golden Knights, like what do you see as a Lightning fan moving forward into tomorrow's trade deadline? Like they got Anthony Duclair tonight, and you
Yep.
loved the trade. You said it
Mm-hmm.
yourself over text. However, do you see your team making another move, or do you think they're just
I
going to
do.
go into? Oh, you think so?
I do. I think that they're going to find a way to bring back David Savard from Montreal. That's my
Fair
guess.
enough.
I think that's the only option. They only have $2 million in cap left because they took on that 1.4 million of Henrique's cap when they did that trade with Edmonton for the fourth round pick. So, I'm going with David Savard. I think that's who they can afford. I think that's who, with Montreal retaining 50%, with another team maybe retaining as well, that'll definitely get Savard down. But I think David Savard is who they're going to target. Familiarity, won a cup with them, hard nosed defender. I think he's exactly who they're going to look at. That's just
Now,
my thought.
tell me something quickly here though, because we're fans of our teams. I know Dakota is in some Calgary chat rooms of the
Mm-hmm.
Flames. You follow closely, I'm sure, with some group chats in the Tampa Bay Lightning, and I'm also a part of some Colorado Avalanche fan pages. And there's obviously discussions of the trade deadline and acquisitions, yada 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 yada. There was a lot of people that were having hard nose towards Tarasenko getting moved to the Avalanche when it was
Mm-hmm.
rumored. However, obviously not the case. He went to Florida, yada yada yada. But what is the lay of the land in Tampa Bay right now? What are the fans expressing what they think they need most to have a good playoff push this season? Are they excited? Are they nervous? Or are they satisfied with the current acquisitions that your general manager has been making?
All the chat rooms that I've been in mostly are um, basically they admit that this year is done, whether they
Yeah.
make the playoffs or not. Like, look, here's what they're looking at: you play in the first round and you get the Florida Panthers. Like, let's just be honest, the Florida Panthers are wicked. They're built for this year, right? They're going to be a heck of a team to play against. Could Tampa pull it out? Sure they could. Any team could pull out a playoff series. Doesn't matter, but it's not looking good. especially without Sergachev and without a defender. And even with Sergachev, Tampa fans were wanting trades. All year, Tampa fans have been wanting Sergachev traded. They've been wanting Chernak traded. They've been wanting them replaced with better defensemen. Sergachev, I love Sergachev, and I want to keep him, but he kind of outpriced himself. I don't know how Brisebois let him get paid more than Victor Hedman, personally. I don't know how that happened when Victor Hedman is still 2 times the defender that Mikhail Sergachev is, even though Mikhail Sergachev's so good. So I just don't see how he allowed that to happen. And now he breaks his leg in half in his first year with $9.5 million. Like, I don't see that ending well for Lightning whatsoever. This contract, it's just not going to age well, especially after, like, the Lightning have a 3 to 5 year window, right? That's all they got left. And after those 5 years, you still have Sergachev for 3.
Mm-hmm.
You're missing him for what? So you miss him in his first year. He's got 3 years left when the team sucks. And you're going to have a hard time trading a $9.5 million, 30-something-year-old Sergachev. So, yeah, either way, the fans are wanting defenders. They're wanting, the Jeannot trade gets brought up every day. Oh, if only we had picks because we didn't trade for Tanner Jeannot, right? Like, it's brought up every day.
Just roasted on a daily.
And the signing of Connor Sheary was a killer. 3 years.
Oh, dude, he hasn't been the same since Pittsburgh, man. I'm telling you. Since
3
those
years,
back-to-back cups.
$2 million a year. Like, the 3 years at $2 million a year, that's killer. 3 years for a guy who didn't have a very good year last year. Like, he had 37 points, but that's not great. I was looking today because I was like, how good was he? Like, why did we pay him so much? He has 10. I want you to know, he has 11 points this year. He just scored his second goal of the season tonight. Second. That is it. He's making $2 million a year. He has 11 points in 45 games. He's missed like 20 games.
Yikes.
Like, he's doing so bad on this team. And, like, I feel bad for him. Like, he doesn't deserve to not be playing well, but he's just not. So
everybody goes through it, man.
I was really hoping in that Duclair trade today that Sheary would be going the other direction. That was really my hope, just to shed him and then kind of keep the roster the same, but basically upgrade Sheary. But that's obviously not the case, so we just added him. I don't know. Lightning fans they understand that this is not our year. Like, it just isn't going to be no matter what it is. Vasilevsky came back too early. He's not playing well enough. Like, all the signs are just pointing to a team that is tired. They're lackadaisical. They're just like, this year they're playing hockey. They're not competing. They're just playing hockey. Oh, if a play goes wrong, so be it. Like, they just can't seem to figure it out, and they do need defenders. People really are hating on, like, Perbix and Radish. I personally like them. Yeah, they make some mistakes, but they're still only in their second years in the NHL. Like, you got to give these guys some grace, and I don't know. That's my thoughts on Tampa. But I don't know.
Well, and as Lightning fans, you have a lot to be proud of. You've been lucky and fortunate to have seen back-to-back cups in the 2020s. Having said that, though, the team that almost, beat you for the three-peat, but you didn't even see them in the playoffs at all. But the team that won in 2023, the Vegas Golden Knights, definitely some controversy. And I seen report after work today that I wanted to bring up tonight on the pod is that they are once again for the third consecutive season using Mark Stone's LTIR money, but apparently they're being called cheaters. And now there has been some people out there saying, well, why doesn't a lot of other teams utilize this as well? Because technically you can, but it's just Vegas that ultimately just jumps to the opportunity with an undisclosed injury that he just always seems to have to happen at the end of February. And they utilize his LTIR money come trade deadline.
Like I don't get me wrong, I hate it that this is happening. And as a Lightning fan, people say, oh, Kucherov did it. Fair enough. But so did Patrick Kane when they beat the Lightning in 2015. That's how the Chicago Blackhawks loaded up in 2015 was Kane's LTIR. But here's what I do want to say to fans. Like, this isn't the teams don't just get to choose. They can't just be like, oh, we're going to send him on LTIR. There are what's the word? Unaffiliated doctors that have to send in medical reports to the National Hockey League, who has to approve them being put on long-term injured reserve so that it doesn't fall under the cap circumvention penalty laws, right? Like, so as much as people want to complain, like, you can't cheat. You have to be able to put it through the channels. Obviously, he's injured to a point where they were able to get a doctor to write a report stating he's going to need this and he's going to be out for X amount of time and yada, yada, yada. And here we are. But yeah, I mean, I read something the other day. Someone was saying, for all you crybabies, this is not me wording it, I'm just paraphrasing. It said, for all you crybabies who are talking about LTIR, there's 19 teams using LTIR right now. So that's more than half the NHL. So take that for what people will. But
And I mean,
I guess that's just it.
oh yeah, and I mean, Mark Stone just has a ridiculous contract too, so that's why they just have so much freed cap availability to their disposal. So you can't really hate on Vegas for utilizing that. Like they legally can, and they are, right? They just got Anthony Mantha from the Washington Caps, and now they just got Noah Hannafin from the Calgary Flames. So they are more than happy and willing to utilize his LTIR money, and they're going to activate him just before playoffs again. Or, yeah, they will. It always happens.
Yeah.
So
I did see a really funny thing today that made me laugh. It was on social media. Like, someone put a Darnell Nurse photo, and they were like, "Oh no, Darnell Nurse fell down the stairs, and now it has to be out until exactly April 17th when their first playoff game is. Oh no, we can use his cap space now." Like, yeah,
and
just
he's
people,
making like
people are
what,
going to
eight,
poke
9
fun at
million?
9.5. So
Jesus.
yeah, so yeah, but that's where I just found it was funny. Like, when people poke good, healthy fun at it, but when people are saying like they're cheating, like, they just aren't, because they can't. Because let's be honest, okay, for all you people out there, if a team was going to get to cheat, would the New York Rangers not get to cheat more? Would the Chicago Blackhawks not only get the first overall pick this year, but guaranteed get, like, you know what I mean? Like, things would fall into place more for the big market teams. Yes, Vegas is a new team and there's a lot of hype around them, but they're not a very big market in terms of TV ratings. So why would they help a lower TV rating market versus New York Rangers, New York Islanders, Chicago, Detroit, Pittsburgh? You know what Pittsburgh could use right now? They could use $9 million in LTIR. They could really use that. But, like,
They just freed up six.
there goes Erik Karlsson. Oh no, done for the year. $11 million. Poof, wide open, right? Like, of course they could use that, but it doesn't happen that way. The fact is that Mark Stone can't play a whole year of hockey. He plays and he gets hurt, and I think that he pushes it as long as he can. Here's what I will say. Maybe they do this. I think Mark Stone plays injured multiple months a year to wait until the diagnosis of what they say. Okay, here's when, if you get surgery, you'll be injured from this date to this date. I think he waits until the last possible day to admit that he's injured, then get put on the IR so that he can use the cap. That's where, if they want to call it cheating on that, sure, I'll call it that. But I think he plays hurt from, say December 15th until now, before he announces that he's injured and needs surgery. He'll play through it to help his team in the long run, which, at the end of the day, if this was business, like money in, money out transactions, right? Where it's like, okay, I am, drowning in money, or I'm putting in bets, or I'm in the financial markets, and I wait until this day, everything's going to hit. Is that, like, if you know that day is going to hit, is that cheating, or is that just being strategic about the markets? You know what I mean? Like, in every other part of the world, strategically planning, whether it's like time off or bonuses, or when you're going to release a product or whatever, right? All that is strategic. And I think he's just strategically announcing when he's injured.
Oh, for sure. It's a business. That's what it
Yeah.
comes boils down to. It's just good business.
Yep. All right, we got a couple milestones, and then we'll get into our two segments. So Van Riemsdyk reached 1,000 career games. We have Connor McDavid, who hit 100 points tonight, so he's the third player to do that behind McKinnon and Kucherov. And then Elias Pettersson just reached 400 points in his career. Speaking of the $11.6 million man, 400 career points. So, in how many games? To reach 400 career points, trailing only Bure in 360 games. So Bure was the fastest. He's the second fastest. So
The Russian
not bad.
Rocket, man. Who would have guessed?
Oh, he's good. I love Bure.
Too good.
Okay, well, let's jump into our game day reviews here. It's just the two of us today, so we only got the two teams. You, in the randomizer, rolled the Philadelphia Flyers, and I rolled the Nashville Predators. So give me a breakdown. Try and leave the trades out of it. Let's just see the Philadelphia Flyers, where they are in the year, and where you think they're going.
Wow, what good do I have to say about the city of brotherly love? Ah, Christ, where do I begin? West Side, Best Side. Philly sucks. No, I'm just kidding. Um, I'm honestly extremely surprised, Riley, that the Philadelphia Flyers under Johnny Tortorella have been so successful with what little they have now. Well, not
Mm-hmm.
just now, but like all season. They
Yep.
have surprised the entire hockey world with, you know, an exaggerated amount of games above 500 won.
Yep.
We'll just start it there. Secondly, they locked down. See, we went over this with Owen Tippett, but you know what? I, I see an upside to his career now. I feel like the confidence he has had this year and the bag that he has received is just going to even more increase his confidence to be an exemplary player going forward for Philly. So, you know, congrats to him. Um,
Seeler just this week. Nick Seeler on
yeah,
his
we were just
4-year
going over
deal.
the Seeler story, but like, I am just baffled the fact that the east side of Pennsylvania is having more excitement this season than what the Penguins in the west side of Pennsylvania are up to these days. Like tonight, Pittsburgh just got blown out 6-0 by both Philly and Pittsburgh's biggest rivals, the Washington Capitals. And that just puts the whole season in a nutshell. But to keep it to Philly, though, like again, they are doing so much better with what little they have compared to what Kyle Dubas in his first year in Pittsburgh has brought together in Pittsburgh, and it's just blowing up in their face. It is
Yep.
just ridiculous. Like, talk about more of a Cinderella story in the NHL this year than the Philadelphia Flyers. Do I see them going far? Maybe not. Okay? They just gave up a top defenseman in
Yep.
Sean Walker to the Colorado Avalanche, and then they just terminated, or sorry, they did not terminate. They waived Ryan Johansson that they acquired from the Colorado Avalanche, and then he was assigned to the Lehigh Valley Phantoms of the AHL. And Daniel Briere just commented today that does he see Ryan Johansson in the foreseeable future with the organization? He said probably not. However, time will tell if they are able to move him or just let him sit in the minors
Yeah.
for a little bit and see what happens. But all in all, you know, Philly, maybe a second round exit. They're tough and gritty. You know, they were
Mm-hmm.
once the Broad Street Bullies for a reason. But honestly, as much as the downfall in Pittsburgh is coming to an end and the dark ages are upon the Steel City, nothing brings me more joy than watching the Philadelphia Flyers lose, and I am eagerly waiting the day when I see them eliminated again in the playoffs.
Yeah. Can we say this, though? Is Philadelphia the best run organization this year?
No, there was a lot of there was a
Think
lot
so?
of like controversy at the beginning of the year with Daniel Briere coming in and the whole thing around his son and yeah, just how certain things were handled. However, it just seems to be within all the noise, they still seem to just go about their day of business just fine, and they're not only proving, but they're also just they're flying high with bright colors.
To me, personally, like regardless of Briere's son. I mean, Briere can't control that. His son's an adult now. Like, that's not on Daniel Briere. That's on his kid. Right? He's an adult. He can only control so much. But to me, I think they have been the best organization this year. They have listened to their roster. They have seen what their roster can do. They have got rid of pieces that they had to, obviously outside of Carter Hart as well. But they're winning without Carter Hart. And I think the reviews on Keith Jones, their president, are unreal. The reviews on Daniel Briere are unreal. And the way that Tortorella gets these guys to play is unreal. So for a team that's supposed to be at the bottom of the league, they are doing fantastic. Like they have let this management know that, you know what, it's not rebuild time. It was just retool time. And I think they were okay with that. And you know what, this Tortorella contract, they're like, heck yeah, this guy's getting the best out of all these guys. We've had no stories about miserable players, no stories about, anything in the locker room with Tortorella and players not getting along. These guys want to play for him. They're playing hard. And then you know what? No surprise. Why does Danny Briere say probably not about Ryan Johansson? Because John Tortorella. He would have said, hey, John, we're getting Ryan Johansson. What do you think of him? I know you had him in the past. And he just was said, don't give him to me.
As one of the biggest characters in NHL history, and John Tortorella, and how vocal and charismatic as he has a way of running things and managing, and it always just seems to go in his favor. He's a smart gentleman, he's a smart head coach, and his way of thinking and delivering for his team, he feels like he is the right fit for the Philadelphia Flyers. Like I stated earlier, they are gritty, and they are, get it, gritty. They're not mismanaged at all. John Tortorella seems like he is a perfect fit for that organization, and I can see him as well being there long term. So, what better team to be head coaching than Philly for Johnny Tortorella?
Exactly.
But again, can't wait for their downfall.
Yeah, I'm fine with them losing too. Let's jump to Nashville, who I'm going to give an F on this year because they have too many pieces still. Why are they hanging on to UC Saros? Another John Gibson type situation. They had offers. They probably were decent, and yet they choose to hold on to him with Yaroslav Askarov coming up. And I just think UC Saros' value is about to drop in the next couple of years. And if they hang on to him, what was the point when they're not winning much? And they have guys like, what's his name, Carrier on defense that are options. And, they have guys that are options to trade. And yes, they traded Yakov Trenin to your Colorado Avalanche, but I don't know. I just feel like they're failing. They said that they were doing a bit of a rebuild, and they've just kind of stayed pat.
But the funny thing, though, too, is that was the bigger picture, like maybe about 2 weeks ago. But then all of a sudden, they won eight straight in a row. So it's like, what is really going on in Smashville? I mean, like, I wouldn't consider them like consistently inconsistent, but they're in a wild card spot. However, can they stay there though?
Exactly.
Like Nashville has always been like, I wouldn't consider them a powerhouse of the Western Conference, but they're definitely like one of the teams up there that are always in the mix. Now, moving forward, like I think maybe building for the future and getting rid of Saros, maybe wait until after this season's done, right? You want to make a decent playoff push, and that's the guy you're going to be relying on. Remember the days of Pekka Rinne, and then UC Saros was backing him up. Like, you want to keep that veteran guy around long enough to help you make that push. And then Pittsburgh, for example, 2016-17, you had Fleury backing up Murray, that veteran guy teaching him the ways, show him in the ropes. You don't want to give up on UC Saros just yet, like I said, because, again, the 8-game win streak, as much as they are hit and miss, don't count out the Nashville Predators just yet. Okay? And I love UC Saros as a great goaltender, and just wait it out. Just don't get careless and then get nervous and just make a deal and a bargain somewhere Then now you're stuck with this rookie goalie that you may have to call up, or even Nashville's backup now. You guys are going to plummet probably, and then get out of the wild card spot. So just
Yeah.
don't do anything risky. Just wait it out, guys.
The problem is they said they were in a rebuild, right? They
Publicly,
announced
yep.
it, and now they're
Well, so did
like,
Philly, right? Philly said that too. The two teams we're
mhm.
talking right now, and now look at them.
But
They're killing it.
with Philly though, they've been top 3 in their division all year. There's no
That's true.
question on whether they were going to be in the playoffs or not. They've had a playoff spot locked up for 2 months.
But
Whereas
they were
Nashville,
vocal day one though too, which is crazy that they were rebuilding
but
day one.
they were vocal. But Keith Jones, I remember his initial press conference. He said, "We're going to rebuild." He said, "Although management can only say that, the players will dictate the direction of the organization." He did say that, and the players have dictated winning as of right now. So, which he's respected. But Nashville has only just climbed into a wild card spot in the West that is a wild card mayhem right now, with 4 or 5 teams all fighting for that spot. And UC Saros, there's teams everywhere looking for a goalie, and you have one, and your team is going to be in decline continuously. Why are you going to wait till he has no value?
Well,
Right? Why?
consider
Like, yes, you're going to lose, but
consider this thought though too, because in my personal opinion, I feel the deepest and toughest division in the NHL is by far the Central Division. It is always it is always just so tough, and it is always a leg race to get to whoever's going to be the Central champs by the year's end. Okay, the likes of Winnipeg, Dallas, and Colorado all fighting within 2 points of each other for the top spot, and then you got Nashville trailing right behind for a first or second wild card position. And it's just crazy. Like they are so deep in that division, and
you
when
know
they
what?
go, what
Sorry, I'm going to backtrack a little bit on myself. You're spitting facts right now. I did not know Nashville has 2 more points than the Vegas Golden Knights,
which is crazy, yeah. Vegas
and
has been falling apart more.
2 more points than the LA Kings. So I'll backtrack a little bit. I'm sorry to Nashville. They're also 8 points ahead of the St. Louis Blues in the wild card race. So I'm going to rescind what I said. I thought that was a much closer race, and I thought that they were farther off. All respect to them. You know what? I guess, you know what? You're right. Like, just like what Philly did, you have to keep Saros, I guess. I have to do a reversal here because I'm wrong. And they turned it around, and the teams that get hot at the end of the year can win. And, I was going to say, it's management's job to not let an 8-game win streak depict what you do at the trade deadline, which I still stand by, because you can't let your team get hot for a 10-game stretch and then think, okay, this is it. We're all of a sudden the best team in the NHL. Like, you have to be realistic still. But
Well, and why would you
least,
want to get rid of the winning formula, right? Like
but
if it's working.
Yeah, I didn't know their situation was as good as it is. Like, they would be in 3rd in the Pacific. That's where they would be. Like, I didn't even know Colorado was 3rd in their own division. Like, that's crazy.
Oh, dude, it's a tortoise and hare race almost in that division, man. It's wild, all within 2 points now. After today's games, I'm pretty sure it's still within the 3 teams at the top there are still within 2 points.
85, 83, 83.
Yep. So it's anyone's game at this point, honestly, boys. Like, one of the tougher divisions.
Winnipeg does have the advantage of having 3 games in hand on both those teams, though. So that could be good for them. But yeah, okay, I am flipping. I'm totally flipping my answer on Nashville. Sorry, Nashville, you're not a failure this year. You guys are exceeding above expectations, just like, they're just like the Philadelphia Flyers. So, my bad. I did not look into them enough. All respect to them. All right, let's jump into our Battle of the Tarps. We have our first March round robin. I'm going to send you the photos right now just so you have them. If you can see them, I don't know if you can, but we have the home jerseys of the AHL Hershey Bears versus the home jerseys of the Saskatoon Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League, Nipawin Hawks. So two honestly heaters. Like I used to hate the Hershey Bears jerseys growing up, but I have really started to love just their subtle brown with their tan hints in there. Like, oh, they do a great job on a simple jersey in Hershey. And then the Nipawin Hawks jerseys are honestly, they're sick. They're so cool. The way that they have their logo set up and everything, I really like those jerseys for them. Black, yellow on the shoulders, white stripes around it, white arm stripe, yellow at the wrist. The way that the socks are kind of plain. They're just like the Bruins. Nothing special there. But yeah, I don't know who I'm going to pick in this one. Honestly, I'll hear you, and then we'll go from there.
Well, boys, I'm going to keep it short and sweet. Honestly, Nipawin Hawks of the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League is going to sell it the most for me this week. Beautiful, clean kit all around. I am absolutely digging the logo. The kit itself is clean. It's simplistic. Compared to the AHL's Hershey Bears, I mean, what can I say? It's just white. It's just white with the logo, man. Like I'm not always a fan.
They do white on their homes in the AHL. I hate their white homes.
Well, even in the CHL, most games before January they'll do white home, and then towards the end of the year from January to March they'll do the alternate. So you'll have your darks as your homes again, rather than the aways, which is so stupid. But yeah, dude, I honestly think Nipawin's gonna be a clear choice for me this week. There's no competing with that.
I mean, the logo is an awesome concept. They did a really good job with it. Their third jersey just has that like hawk without the lettering. It looks really cool. It's just expanded and blown up to a much larger scale. Really cool idea. These younger teams, they really put good detail into their jerseys because, like we always talk about, they don't have much restrictions like a professional league does. And but again, like Hershey, they do a good job with their color scheme, being the only brown hockey jersey in all of pro sports. They do a pretty good job. So I'll give them props. It's not a total walk for me, but Nipawin definitely takes this one. And then we have sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to say for everyone out there, including yourself, Riley, if you've never seen one of the newer franchises of the MJHL, the Manitoba Junior Hockey League, you want a nice jersey and kit to look out for? The Niverville Nighthawks. They have a nice, clean kit.
Well, hopefully we get them in the randomizer soon because that'd be awesome to have them on here.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I just wanted to point that out as we were talking about Hawks. So,
Hawks, yeah.
Niverville Nighthawks of the MJHL. Go check those out. They are beauty tarps.
We have our second February semifinal as well. It ended up being the Vancouver Canucks versus the Vienna Capitals. So the Canucks black alternate jerseys with the yellow skate versus Vienna Capitals in their orange Cyclone jerseys. So we're going to put that up on social media for everyone to vote on to see which one you like more. And then our February final is going to be Ilves versus the winner of either Vancouver or Vienna, whoever you guys vote on. So that pretty much does it. Gameday Tarps episode 26, our first solo running it together, Dally. Either way, thanks everyone for listening. Follow us on all social medias at Gameday Tarps. And thanks again. Have a great night.